Chapter 1132. Luo Nan obviously didn't care about the baffling accusation from a stranger. But as the conversation went deeper, his expression gradually turned serious. A dozen seconds later, he gave Bamboo Pole a meaningful glance and was the first to exit the room. He entered a small reception room next door. There wasn't a soul to be found here. Soon Bamboo Pole came in as well. Luo Nan transferred Yin Li's long-distance communication to this place and turned on the multi-party video mode. Soon, OK's angry baby face appeared in the projection area. He saw the personnel configuration on Luo Nan's side and became even more furious. This is your team, right? I'll say it again. You have no bottom line. How can you use a girl's reputation to distort your image and Photoshop that kind of photo? You guys don't need to do this if you want to win over female and heterosexual fans. I know you guys definitely have some follow-up bullshit. Take it down as soon as possible. Don't think that I'm joking. My mom is the executive vice president of the Ladies Association of Xia City. I can deprive you of your guardianship rights at any time and sue you until you go bankrupt at the same time. Luo Nan and the other two exchanged glances and Luo Nan spoke. Thank you for your concern for Rue Wen. But before you express your attitude and emotions, can you send us the photo you saw? Right now, we're completely confused. Confused your sister? OK's words were too fast and he accidentally brought Rue Wen in. His momentum was stifled and he hummed as he sent over the photo he spoke of. The gazes of the three converged and they came to a conclusion with just a glance. It really was a photo of Rue Wen. Handsome. A neutral persona really does attract female fans. She'll be very popular in niche circles. Bamboo Pole whistled and was met with Luo Nan and OK's stern glares. Yinlu said, Mingtang culture definitely doesn't have this kind of hype plan. Miss Mo Ye even made a request to Mingtang culture this morning. In fact, all information related to Miss Rue Wen has been completely frozen over at Mingtang culture since last weekend. They're also working on a cooling plan. They'll have corresponding actions soon. Of course, Yinlu wasn't giving OK an explanation. She needed to express the facts and attitude to Luo Nan. Bamboo Pole rubbed his chin and added, This photo isn't photoshopped, right? What I'm saying is that it's probably been beautified. It's probably been restored from a low-resolution state, but it's definitely not a head transplant. Luo Nan nodded his head in confirmation. It's not photoshopped. It should be at the underground fighting arena. Yes, there. Luo Nan and Bamboo Pole both understood at this point. Yinlu was a bit late by half a second, but she also came to a realization. What underground fighting arena? OK asked, but no one paid attention to him. Bamboo Pole scratched his head. If it's that place, things will get more complicated. Blackjack's venue had a lot of people to begin with, and it didn't seem to be particularly strict about prohibiting photography. Rue Wen had been there for a few years and could be considered a celebrity, so it was normal for her to leave behind a photo. Also, last year's 2 out of 1,000 incident caused a large amount of information related to Rue Wen to leak out. Pictures or video information like this shouldn't be rare in our circle. Video data? Luo Nan and OK spoke at the same time. Luo Nan's tone was fine, but OK was about to explode. After Luo Nan spoke, he immediately remembered, yes, there's a video. Back then, he had used some video information that had leaked out from the fighting arena to convince his aunt's family. It was the time when Rue Wen's older brother was killed. Of course, Luo Nan later learned that Rue Wen's older brother and Rue Wen shouldn't be related by blood. It was just that Rue Wen's short memory was that they were grouped together after the fighting arena opened, and the older brother took care of her. The blackjack incident happened in early October of last year. It hadn't even been a year since then. But Luo Nan had experienced far too many things in these 9 months. His memories of the underground fighting arena were actually a bit fuzzy. It was hard to dig out any useful information by searching through the details of his memories. Bamboo Pole was a bit disapproving. Is this sort of picture useful? With Rue Wen's temperament, would she care about this? Probably not. Luo Nan spoke halfway through his words, but then he remembered what he saw 2 nights ago in Rue Wen's projection area. He was a bit hesitant for a time, not daring to rashly come to a conclusion. Bamboo Pole changed his perspective to assist in the analysis. Forgive me for speaking a bit bluntly, but there are some differences between the picture and Rue Wen's recent image. She was completely a boy at that time. If it weren't for the fact that everyone was familiar with each other and the topic of conversation was this, it would have been quite difficult for me to recognize her at first glance. I've been monitoring the network information of the boss and your family all this time. Rue 1 is indeed the most popular among you, but there don't seem to be any rumors about her. This is okay. Oh, student au Quebec. Let me ask you something. When you saw this picture, did the owner associate it with Rue 1? It seems like. Okay wanted to say something but stopped. His expression turned rather ugly, and he actually couldn't continue. Bamboo Pole saw the change in his expression and clapped his hands. Don't tell me it was you who blurted it out. You're a hardcore fan. Okay was speechless. Bamboo Pole rolled his eyes. What was the situation like at the time? How many people were there? Were their mouths tight? Did you warn them afterwards? What were the chances that they would listen to you? Did you send people to track down the source of this picture? Did you pay attention to secrecy when you gave chase? A minute later, OK exited the group chat with an ashen face. Bamboo Pole clapped his hands. The little baby has been dealt with, but the problem is still there. The nature is hard to determine. Speaking of which, I still don't understand. Was this an accident or was it premeditated? Or was it just a prank? Luonan frowned. On this point, I agree with OK's words. It doesn't matter if it was premeditated or a prank. It's hard to trust this kind of trick. Do you think that someone is messing with you through Rue 1? That's my first reaction. Luonan thought back to the premonition he made not too long ago. I've been in all sorts of trouble lately, big and small. I feel like someone is using a tactic to tire me out. Bamboo Pole didn't ask what was a big trouble and what was a small trouble. He just said, if it's just to divert your attention and waste your energy, then this kind of trick won't cause you any substantial harm. Even if there is a follow-up, it won't cause you any substantial harm. This doesn't seem like the work of a schemer from the secret room. It's not that they can't think of it, it's that there's no need. What do you think, Brother Bamboo Pole? Rather than saying it's a tactic to tire me out, it's more like a counterattack from all sides unconsciously and unconsciously after the original balance is lost. Bamboo Pole had clearly already considered this matter. Boss, right now you're like a massive star that suddenly inserted itself into the solar system. Because of your arrival, the original orbit of the celestial bodies has been completely messed up. All of the celestial bodies have begun to draw closer to you, and they are also resisting at the same time. There's only one reason. Boss, your weight is far too heavy. Thank you for the compliment. I'm just saying. Right now, I don't have any objective data to support me. Boss, you can take a look. Bamboo Pole was all smiles. He did his best to make the atmosphere more relaxed. With the current situation, it's impossible for us to fly to a high place with a whoosh. We can look down on all things from a high vantage point, and we can grasp the most crucial clue in an instant. For a considerable amount of time, we still have to deal with every move that comes our way. We need to be able to defend this side of Xia City, and we need to be more open when we go outside Xia City to steal from someone. When all is said and done, those people are made of flesh and blood. They aren't celestial bodies that don't have sentience. If your fist really smashes into their faces, they will certainly be afraid. Once they're afraid, things will be easier. This is what it means to strike with one fist to avoid 100 punches. Luonan nodded, but then he shook his head a second later. This is true for the vast majority of people. But for that one, I'm talking about Li Wei. That fellow should be completely different. The feeling of being the big boss behind the scenes? Boss, you seem to care quite a bit about this person. Luonan didn't hide it at all. It's because he's the sun that those celestial bodies revolve around. What's important is that he's orderly and self-contained. From the looks of it, all the steps are extremely orderly. Moreover, they are quite feasible. Bamboo Pole immediately thought of the job next door. Boss, what you're saying is that the 10 days in the Wilderness Expansion Pack has great potential for this new skill tree? Luonan said flatly. There won't be any problems climbing all the way to the top of the skill tree. Ha! Bamboo Pole subconsciously swept a glance at Yin Lu. He saw that the latter's expression was extremely serious, as if it was a reflection of his current mood. He only heard Luonan say, I suspect that the new humans described in the game are very likely to have already appeared in some laboratories. Just like the deep blue walkers in the game. Yes, there have been some minor adjustments to this system, right? Bamboo Pole nodded. It's not just minor adjustments. There's also the addition of the Exceed the Limit mission. There might even be a follow-up extension to the skill tree. It's just that no one has been able to clear it yet. But the setup of the game's core has already been completed. If we consider the usage of the high-end simulator of Frost River reality, then the cores of the burners and the deep blue platform should have completed the corresponding upgrades. Luo Nan suddenly laughed, but his laughter was cold and sinister. The burners are fine, but I don't know if there's anyone who's willing to give the mutant new humans a try. Yin Lu was one of the people most familiar with this project, so she was duty-bound to take responsibility. She immediately declared, I will monitor this information in real time. Bamboo Pole wanted to ask why Luo Nan was so certain and why he had so much confidence in Li Wei. However, he hesitated for a moment and didn't ask. He only heard Luo Nan say, every iteration of the core technology is equivalent to taking a step forward for civilization. Even the smartest people in the world, the most well-trained research groups, find it hard to accurately predict what the next iteration of technology will look like. However, thanks to Li Wei, many people have seen 3 to 5 more steps through his arrangements. The first to third steps might be correct. At the very least, they are options that can be walked through. But what will happen after that? Luo Nan continued speaking without waiting for Bamboo Pole or Yin Lu to respond. Even if they walk through the first 3 steps, everyone will still be able to take the 4th and 5th steps after untold hardships. But who knows if this kind of small path has an end? Is the end connected to the great road to heaven, or is it connected to a bottomless abyss? I don't hold any hope for this. Chapter 1133. Luo Nan's tone was certain, without the slightest bit of hesitation. This was because he had already seen the most difficult aspect of this path from a mystical dream. The struggle of the heavenly Yuan Empire survivors in the Hongguang system was the future path that Li Wei had planned out. Even though Luo Nan had only seen an insignificant silhouette of that great era, he had not seen the true end point. It was just a few dozen steps ahead of the current Earth's road mark. From the information he could gather, he really couldn't find a single bit of evidence to maintain optimism. Again, if Li Wei really was a visitor from outer space with a similar background, then he would be more familiar with the fate of the heavenly Yuan Empire in the Hongguang system than Luo Nan. Li Wei certainly understood that with the foundational strength of Earth civilization, just 5 more steps would cause them to self-destruct on the path of high-speed mutation iteration. His Homo evolutus path, which was built on the foundation of mutation, truly harbored malicious intentions. Luo Nan didn't elaborate further. He still hadn't found a better way to share this information with others. Even if he wanted to replay that dream, the heavily overloaded simulator system still hadn't recovered. He took the initiative to return to the topic. I'm going to take a look at Rue 1. She has class this morning. Yin Lu timely answered. When Miss Moya notified the company, she seemed to say that Miss Rue 1 would be skipping class today to hide from the reporters and gossipers. That's perfect. I'll go to the laboratory to find her. Rue 1 was certainly in the misty maze right now. Luo Nan was a bit weak when he spoke. It wasn't just because he had told a small lie to his friend. It was also because it would be hard for him to find Rue 1 in this state. In such a complex, chaotic environment of space and time, the connection between the structure of the format pyramid wasn't enough for Luo Nan to lock onto Rue 1's precise location. Even the transmission of information was quite difficult. But no matter what was said, as an older brother, he needed to mentally prepare Rue 1 before this matter spread. It didn't matter if it was useful or not. Of course, it would be best if he could nip the problem in the bud. Luo Nan made the arrangements. Brother Bamboo Pole, you help monitor the situation. Of course, it's best if you can strangle the source. Contact the SCA if necessary. Also, follow up with public relations. Yin Lu, have Ming Tang Culture come up with a plan quickly. Also, don't cause any more trouble. Let me announce to the public that I've been using a book reading app recently, Me Read app, to read books in cache and read them offline. Yin Lu lowered her head. I'll keep an eye on him. Luo Nan nodded, and his figure slowly faded away amidst this slight movement. His afterimage remained, but his main body had already passed through the distortion of space-time to jump to his destination. An alarm went off in the house. Bamboo Pole pressed his ear and contacted the other side through the hexa ear. It's nothing. It's just Boss Luo's daily routine. After all, this was the location of the Xia City branch. It was a vital region in the structure of the psychic wave network. It was extremely sensitive to all phenomena that interfered with each other on the mental and material plane. With Bamboo Pole's endorsement, the alarm stopped ringing. Bamboo Pole pinched his chin and said in distress, Boss Luo going for psychological counseling doesn't seem appropriate. Of course, when it comes to Rue Wen, it's pretty much the same for everyone. But, do you think the boss needs it now? Inla gave Bamboo Pole a cold glance and directly cut off the communication. Luo Nan's mental state could be considered stable for now. He didn't immediately rush into the misty labyrinth and call Rue Wen back. That would only create a tense atmosphere. It was very likely that Rue Wen, who was quite ignorant of such matters, would become sensitive. He didn't even enter the misty labyrinth. He just pondered it very seriously in the underground laboratory. In the end, he left a message for Rue Wen through the manager of this place, the military-grade AI, the standard-bearer. Then he walked outside, heading to the upper-level area that belonged to the Mystic Arts Research Society. A few minutes later, Luo Nan sat in a leisure booth next to the passageway at the bottom of the lake. He asked for a cup of coffee and turned on the internet at the same time. He was like a normal, idle student who dared to skip class. He seemed to be leisurely browsing the contents of the internet. After all, it was still class time. There weren't many members in the society. Even if they saw Luo Nan, they would at most give him a few glances. It was mostly due to the special treatment of Luo Nan's appropriation of the society's assets. This kind of reaction made Luo Nan breathe a sigh of relief. It looked like Rue Wen's new wave of scandals had yet to ferment, at least within the circle of the Mystic Research Society. As for the internet, it could be considered calm right now. With the variability of hot topics on the internet, it was very hard for a single matter to become the focus of attention of the netizens for a long time, unless it was a highly stimulating topic or an operation that continuously bought trending searches. But some matters, even if they were removed from the mainstream of public opinion, would still precipitate within a few special circles. They would attract people with different standpoints, endlessly tearing and bombarding each other, and constantly producing chemical reactions. Perhaps they would completely finish their reactions and become a stable pile of waste. But they could also breed strength that could erupt at any time. If cold treatment was needed, the most taboo thing to do at this stage was to throw in new material. These small circles possessed extraordinary enthusiasm and acuity towards similar matters. Their imagination ability was top-notch. No one knew what kind of chain reaction would erupt with the addition of new material. Luo Nan also paid attention to a few small circles of this nature. For example, East Asia's largest gathering place for gossip, the Sky Street community. Last year's University Day, Luo Nan and Peony Tang Yi had used this network community to capture a chain of aberrations and infections revolving around celebrities. The ecology here was complex. The light side and the dark side existed at the same time. Gossip peddlers came and went. Many entertainment companies also bought water armies. Some even personally went into the field, both in the open and in the dark. It was quite lively. Some of Rue Wen's authoritative material had mostly exploded here. She rolled a few times before going out of the circle. It was no wonder that Zhang Yingying, OK, and the others would suspect that the Demon Eye Woman incident was a publicity stunt. It really was a routine operation. It looked very familiar. And it seemed that the latest scandalous material related to Rue Wen had yet to reach this circle. Luo Nan skimmed and searched around, but he didn't find any statements that were worth being vigilant about. However, in the information stream of the Banqing Entertainment Circle, he saw industrialist Beishan Shuahui's pragmatic turnaround in the information flow of Luo Nan's entertainment circle. Luo Nan read and read. He relaxed a bit, but he was also a bit distracted. Rue Wen's matter could be treated as a joke if it wasn't for the special context of the current situation. But it was precisely because of this time period, this environment, and the faintly discernible figure behind the scenes of this series of events that Luo Nan had no choice but to seriously consider it. If he were to use the analogy of a bamboo pole to describe it, then it could be considered a kind of gravitational effect. Li Wei's imprint on this world was far too deep. His foundation was truly solid. Li Wei's position in the current era of Earth civilization was far too deep. He was a dark star that caused people to worry even more. The current Luo Nan could indeed use his own weight to make the entire world raise its eyebrows. But the reality of being a latecomer meant that he was destined to struggle against the operating order that Li Wei had established in advance. Bamboo pole's analogy was correct. He was a massive celestial body that had invaded the solar system. From the perspective of many people, Li Wei's method was perfectly justified. The value generated from this system was the hard currency that possessed credibility. Thus, a substantial closed loop was formed. Any change, especially a change from the foundation, would inevitably pay a sunk cost that was hard to bear. In the face of a closed-loop system, no matter how tempting Luo Nan's offer was, it was only a possibility. Most of the time, he was a destroyer of existing benefits. This kind of destruction, and even the tendency of destruction, did not simply affect theoretical systems, evolutionary research, cutting-edge manufacturing, and other high and mighty domains. Instead, it manifested in all aspects. For example, the 10 days in the Wilderness Expansion Pack this time. Just in Xia City alone, millions of players stayed up all night. They threw themselves into the game and played to their heart's content. If Luo Nan were to beat the drums and gongs at this time and pick on the game, especially if he were to use the illusory and inexplicable future of humanity as a yardstick, wouldn't he be a destroyer? Such a character was destined to be unpopular. Once he was exposed, he would receive an earth-shattering amount of ridicule and abuse. Of course, he could also be completely forgotten or ignored. Such a situation would undoubtedly make one not know whether to laugh or cry. It would make one's heart go cold. The game was like this, and the real world might not be an exception. There was no one to blame for such a situation. Was he supposed to blame the general public who was ignorant of the existence of interstellar civilization? Was he supposed to blame them? Was he supposed to blame them? Was he supposed to blame these people who were ignorant of the existence of interstellar civilization? Luo Nan was bound to reverse this situation. But how was he supposed to reverse it? Was the global census strong enough? Luo Nan seriously considered it over and over again, but he was unable to come to a conclusion. If he had to come to a conclusion, then it would be. He needed to increase his strength. Luo Nan needed to increase his bargaining chips, increase his force, and obtain a more prominent effect. Therefore, he had always been low-key and covert with the global census. He didn't want to reveal his trump card in advance, passively using tactics to add fuel to the fire, and sink into the mud of entanglement. But in the end, he still had to reveal his cards. What should he do then? Luo Nan spun his spoon and unconsciously stirred his coffee. It collided with the walls of the cup, creating tinkling sounds. It was like the fragmented thoughts that flashed through his mind. Perhaps it was because he was thinking too much, or perhaps it was because of the stimulation from today's two matters, but the outline of Luo Nan's thoughts became clearer amidst this tinkling noise. He was exerting his strength in basic research and in the upper echelons. But if he wanted to rapidly expand his influence and force, shouldn't he use some unconventional methods? His wristband vibrated at this time. It was a notification from the Sky Street community. The title of the pushed message didn't look particularly attractive. Everyone help take a look. What's the relationship between this guy and #magic-eyed woman? I'm a fan of this guy. There was a lag in the push of the message. By the time Luo Nan clicked in, the message had already been sent 2 minutes ago. The most important thing was that the title had actually changed. Shock. Magic-eyed woman or magic-eyed man? Yep, it was even trashier. Chapter 1134. Luo Nan's fingers twirled around the ear of the cup as he sneered. What the hell was this angle? But it was very clear that it was in line with the logic of a portion of people. There were already people who replied below. Sure enough, such a pretty girl must be a boy. It looked like it was directed, but it was actually just playing around with an old trope. The follow-ups had similar lines of thought. It looked lively, but it didn't stir up any waves. The following few responses were mostly, the poster's eyesight is excellent, but he lacks confidence. Go be a fan, we'll allow it, and so on. Of course, there were some fans of Ru A1 who chased after the topic to come in and report it. 7 or 8 responses within 2 minutes proved that the demon-eyed woman incident was still quite popular, but that was it. This continued until a highly highlighted post that was liked by many people appeared. Taking without permission, taking screenshots and posting indiscriminately, I don't care. It doesn't matter if it's a boy or a girl, I don't care. After all, beauty is number one. The information is below. It's not first-hand, but it's verified to the greatest degree. Those who are interested can figure it out for themselves. In the end, I'm a fan. A video was inserted below the post that was filled with a sense of superiority. The preview image was the moment when the main post displayed Rui when assuming a fighting stance. Luo Nan sucked in a shallow breath. He was already mentally prepared. He even looked at the ID of the story master. It was called something like Lord Bird. It seemed that his community level and privileges were quite high. He opened the video and at nearly the same time, Bamboo Pole made a call. "Boss, something's come out of Sky Street." "Yeah, I'm watching." The video began to play as they spoke. There were no surprises. The noisy, chaotic, and feverish environment presented in the video was undoubtedly the underground fighting arena from back then. Hundreds and thousands of rich spectators and gamblers, under the dual stimulation of blood and money, vigorously applauded and shouted. They cheered for the targets they placed their bets on. Or they let out ear-piercing hisses and curses that were unbearable to the ears to disturb their opponents. The person holding the camera wasn't much better. Even though the anti-shake performance was superior, the large swaying angle of view in the early stages was enough to prove his mood at the time. The seemingly meaningless shots revealed twisted and crazed faces. There was no sign of the smart, capable, or sanctimonious appearance that they usually had. Nearly 10 seconds passed before the camera focused on the target. The broadcast screen in the center of the fighting arena. It just so happened to give a close-up. Raven. Without a doubt, it was Rui 1. Even though she was thinner and weaker than when he first saw her, Luo Nan was able to immediately recognize her. At that time, Rui Wen's height was only about 1.3 or 4 meters. She only wore tight shorts, and her arm was wrapped in bandages that had already changed color. There weren't many lines of muscle on his body, and it was impossible to tell if he was a man or a woman. There was only sweat and the crisscrossing scars on his body. And across from her, her opponent's age wasn't that great either, but he was clearly nearing adulthood. Moreover, he was a muscular man covered in dazzling essential oils. He looked as capable as a Black Panther, and compared to Rui Wen, his build was nearly a third larger. This kind of battle had no concept of weight in a regular fight. From a visual point of view, it was a completely unequal battle. This was the youth combat, launched by Black Jack's underground fighting arena. Compared to the fight between adults, the technique and strength might not be as good, but it was more intense and cruel. Clearly, at that time, not only had Rui Wen not awakened her extraordinary powers, she was in her body. Compared to when Luo Nan had first met her, she was far inferior in terms of physical strength and combat skills. Therefore, she was at a disadvantage in the fight. She could only rely on her calm state of mind and the precise control of her body, which had already begun to show signs of life, to avoid the opponent's heavy punches and grabs. She used small injuries to trade for space and struggled to maintain her position. Luo Nan clearly knew that Rui Wen was unharmed right now, and that she had certainly left the arena alive. But Luo Nan's heart still clenched when he saw this scene. Due to Rui Wen's current strength, he often overlooked the short, few years of Rui Wen's struggle to survive in the underground fighting arena. Now that he thought about it, the little girl's quiet and repressed personality traits were formed from a blank slate in that environment. He should rejoice that the current Rui Wen wasn't a bloody and cruel homicidal maniac or a madman who would self-destruct at the slightest provocation. That should be the normal state. Luo Nan knew that after the underground fighting arena was dealt with, those young boxers who had been reared by Black Jack had basically all encountered serious obstacles in the process of adapting to normal society after they were rescued. There were both factors of drug withdrawal and also personality and personality problems within. In comparison, Rui Wen was the most special one. Oh, looking at it from this angle, perhaps it was Rui Wen's innate talent and perception that were different from ordinary people that had played a positive role. Bamboo Pole's voice cut in during Luo Nan's contemplation. I suggest that we wait and see for now. The current video is just a small annoyance. In terms of visual effects, there should be leeway for Rui Wen. Due to the environment, age, gender, appearance, physique, and other factors, there's a natural element of sympathy within. Yes. Also, the ID of the person who posted the video is that Master Tai. According to the information we've obtained from our initial contact, He was the one who first collected the video data related to Ru-A1 from the dark web. He transferred it to a niche professional fighting forum, and then it was forwarded and spread by others. He can be considered one of the clear-cut sources. Can we do something and make him take it back? This fellow has quite a bit of reputation in the Sky Street community. He's usually very active. It's said that his family has a mine. If we deal with him hastily, we might end up making a fool of ourselves. I feel that it's better to try and communicate privately. This person doesn't seem to be a low-key person. He should have some connections with Little Xie and the other second-generation circles. I've already talked to Little Xie. There should be news soon. Bamboo Pole's train of thought was very clear. If we can communicate, then we'll use our status as relatives to request. Yeah, let's give him some face. Let's call it a request. Let him take down the relevant content. At the very least, don't add any more dirt. If he doesn't know what's good for him, then it won't be too late for us to make a move. Luo Nan felt very worry-free. Brother Bamboo Pole, you're right. There's more. The effects have already been created. The video is highly bloody and intense. Highly bloody. Luo Nan only felt heartache for Ru-A1 as he watched all this. Was he desensitized to bloody scenes after mingling in the inner world for so long? Bamboo Pole was very baffled. Didn't you watch it already? I haven't finished watching it yet. Hurry up and watch it. What are you pondering over the details right now? Forget it. You're the boss. You can do whatever you want. I'm just suggesting that we do some appropriate guidance. We need to take a more orthodox and more official route. We need to highlight our identities as victims. We need to take a step forward and form a shield. Victim? Isn't Ru-A1 the victim? Even if he was an ability user, he could still be a weak chicken that was persecuted before awakening. Some of the baby-faced man's words were quite reasonable. Ru-A1's gender and age could be in places like the Lion Girl Guild and the Association for the Protection of Minors. Fong was making an issue out of it. After all, it was very important for the media and the public to have a good first impression, which would be very useful for the subsequent handling. At this time, your treatment as a member of the high authority group will come into play. Luo Nan expressed his approval, but these matters were still the work of Bamboo Pole, the temporary secretary. Bamboo Pole continued his analysis. As for the level of public opinion, it's a little more complicated. Even if we do our best in the orthodox channels, we can't underestimate the public's rebellious mentality. The hype from before still attracted some anti-fans for Ru-A1. Also, the provocative nature of the video itself will create a lot of variables. I'll keep an eye on him. Luo Nan took the initiative to ask for work. Right now, the main issue is the disturbance in Xia City. The number of people who pay attention to gossip is limited. I can still tell who is truly ignorant and who is up to no good. Bamboo Pole couldn't help but laugh. What are you sure about? Are we going to follow the network cable? Isn't it more direct to go through the sea of consciousness? Please don't be lenient. I'll do my best. Hey. What I mean is, don't complicate a simple problem. It won't end well if someone dies. I know. Luo Nan's concise response caused Bamboo Pole, the temporary secretary with a headache, to go offline. While they were talking, the popularity of this thread had already completely exploded. It was just like in the video. Under Ru-A1's delicate elbow, the eyeballs and blood exploded on the face of the panther-like opponent. Any normal person would basically collapse after receiving this kind of attack. But in the video, the panther-like opponent actually roared and exploded with an even more astonishing intensity of attack. He should have taken drugs. The cruel battle had yet to end. Luo Nan frowned as he watched the video continue to advance under the rapidly escalating bloody scene. Luo Nan flipped through the thread again, highlighting the comments below. The content clearly changed after a few minutes. Bro. The greeting entered Luo Nan's ears, and he subconsciously stirred. Only then did he discover that Ru-A1 was already by his side. She should have heard the message from Flagbearer and rushed over. Oh, so early. Luo Nan responded randomly. He was very glad that he didn't use any projection or any other external function. But after some thought, he could hide it from the present, but he couldn't hide it from the future. He came to do psychological counseling, not to cover Ru-A1's eyes and ears. Especially with Ru-A1's obsessive attention to his image on the internet. This matter was bound to be impossible to hide. Luo Nan hesitated for a moment, but he still persisted with his earlier plan. He revealed a smiling face. "Oh, Rowen. I just so happen to have something to tell you. Speaking of which, someone has posted information about you on the internet again." Ruiwen stood by the table, expressionless. She just asked, "Is it still those training videos?" The word "still" had quite a bit of spirituality. Luonan carefully pondered over it and responded slowly, "No, it's when you were in the underground fighting arena." "Oh." Rue Wen's response was abnormally dull. It was impossible to tell whether she cared or didn't care from her simple response. Or perhaps this sort of dullness was her normal state. Luonan carefully observed her, but he was still unable to discern whether Rue Wen's response came from her heart or whether it was a brilliant disguise. She could be considered to be sluggish or numb and so on. Luonan hesitated for a moment, but he still took a step forward. "Do you want to take a look?" "Okay." Chapter 1135. Her movements were simple as well. She just sat next to Luonan and watched as he opened up the projection interface. Inside was the topic thread. At this time, the number of views and replies to the post had completely exploded. Looking at the forum, there were already more than 10 related posts, and it was almost overwhelming. Bamboo Pole also sent him relevant links and analysis of the trending topics on social media outside of the Tianjie community. It had only been slightly more than an hour since the thread was posted on Tianjie community, but the topic had already entered the trending list of many social media platforms. Every minute, there would be a large number of discussions and threads. It was extremely appropriate to say that it was in full swing. But the most absurd thing was that Luonan was prepared to start from the beginning for the sake of letting Rue understand the ins and outs of the story. But when he wanted to open the video sent by Lord Ho, it was already ineffective. Luonan almost believed that Bamboo Pole would make the first move. But very quickly, Master Yang changed his statement and made a statement. "I didn't pay attention to the occasion. The content of the video scared the children, and it doesn't conform to the forum's rules. At present, I need to do some post-editing before I post it. The people who moved the links before should have all been invalidated. As for those who changed their names and pretended to be the original authors, be careful that the SCA comes looking for you. That is all I have to say. Good luck." Rue turned to look at Luonan. Luonan was a bit embarrassed. Speaking of which, the scene of eyeballs exploding and flesh splattering was indeed a little. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for it to rise in popularity so quickly. Rue didn't seem to care. She only took the initiative to read the replies on the post with undisguised curiosity. She was reading very seriously. Even after a few hundred replies, a large number of repeated messages such as requesting resources and requesting unedited version flooded the page, drowning out the content of the discussion and debate. She continued reading one message after another. There were all sorts of opinions, all sorts of likes and dislikes, all sorts of conflicts, and even fanning the flames. The comments on the internet were not like normal communication. Being straightforward was considered light, and adding fuel to the flames and going to extremes was the norm. Off to the side, Luonan saw a large amount of curses like inhumane, perverted ladyboy, murderous embryo, and so on. I can't accept the cries of, "I'm no longer a fan." This was only the first wave of reaction, and it would only be worse in the future. Luonan had wanted to stop Rue Wen, but he didn't say anything in the end. Because he saw the reflection of the projection interface in Rue Wen's eyes, as well as her usual concentration. Apart from that, there were no other fluctuations. Those streams of information brimming with turbid emotions didn't seem to arouse the slightest bit of response in Rue Wen's heart. The question was, what was the motivation behind that curiosity and attention? Luonan muttered to himself for a moment before calling Bamboo Pole. When the call connected, he was still nagging non-stop. "This has really exploded. It's out of the circle. All the major platforms have removed hundreds of videos with the excuse that it's too bloody, but there are still edited screenshots flying all over the place. I highly recommend Mimimi Reading app. It's really not bad. It's worth installing. After all, you can read books in a cache and read them offline. Send me a link that I can see. Hey, haven't you seen it already? Rue Wen wants to see it. Isn't this too much? Is this a stimulant therapy, boss? Before Luo Nan could answer, another person called in. He looked at the caller ID and saw that it was actually his uncle, Mo Haihang. Luo Nan's mind jumped. He hurriedly said to Bamboo Pole, "I'm hanging up for now. Don't forget to send me the link." He seamlessly connected to his uncle's call. Sure enough, the other side bluntly asked, "Do you know what's going on with the bloody video related to Rue Wen online?" His uncle had long since known of Rue Wen's experiences in the underground fighting arena. Back then, Luo Nan had asked He Yuan to provide a few carefully selected and edited videos for the sake of persuading his family to adopt Rue Wen. Knowing the inside story made it easier to communicate. Luo Nan spoke the truth. "We're already paying attention. For now, we haven't figured out if it's an accident or a conspiracy. What are you guys thinking? Are you preparing to delete or limit the stream? Does Rue Wen know about this?" She knows. She's watching it right now. She hasn't thought of any countermeasures yet. She's still observing. Of course, this observing had multiple meanings. The targets of observation were the trends of public opinion online. It also included Rue Wen. Luo Nan subconsciously swept a glance at Rue Wen's face next to him. Rue Wen was very sensitive to his gaze. Moreover, she could hear her own name. Her gaze temporarily left the projection area. She tilted her head and locked gazes with him. She was still calm. Luo Nan smiled at Rue Wen. No matter what Rue Wen's reaction was, he had to maintain his confidence in front of her no matter what. This was the only way to fulfill his duty as an older brother. Therefore, Luo Nan's words carried a bit more certainty when he conversed with his uncle. "It's fine right now. As long as we don't care, it's not a big deal what happens in the outside world. Of course, we can't just let people casually toss and turn. Measures will certainly be taken. It's just that aunt and uncle might have to work a bit harder in the near future. There will still be many disturbances in the outside world. Don't worry about this. What are we afraid of? We already have experience. We even withstood the storm of your grandfather back in the day. There's no need to mention this nature right now." "You're so magnanimous." Luo Nan's wristband vibrated several times in the time it took to say a few words. Mo Ya, Mo Peng, Zhang Yingying, Octopus, Shuelei, Xie Junping, Tianxi. All of them were calling him like a swarm of bees. There were even a few unfamiliar numbers in between. Though they were blocked in an instant due to insufficient authority, there was no doubt that they had truly stepped out of the loop. Luo Nan didn't plan on chatting with his friends for the time being. He hastily ended the call with his uncle and turned his head to look at Rue Wen. Right now, Rue Wen had already taken the initiative to jump out of that thread. She was very proficient in searching for topics related to herself in the Sky Street community and a few other social media platforms. The wider the area she paid attention to, the more information she could absorb. Though there were no signs of her mental defenses collapsing so far, Luo Nan had no choice but to be on guard. He spent a few seconds preparing his words. But when faced with Rue Wen's seemingly clear and transparent state of mind that seemed bottomless, in the end he still took out the most straightforward question. "Oro Wen, aren't you angry looking at these things?" Rue Wen turned to look at him once more. Then she shook her head. "Then, do you have any thoughts?" "I do." Luo Nan just stared at her. Rue Wen slightly lowered her eyelids. "I want to see what I really look like." "Ha!" Rue Wen raised her eyes and locked gazes with Luo Nan. She spoke very seriously 2 seconds later. "Can this sort of thing continue on forever?" Chapter 1136. What does Rue Wen mean by keep it up? She's interested in becoming a public figure? All young girls love that. Rue Wen. That's Rue Wen. Hee hee. You know Rue Wen better than Rue Wen? That's not necessarily true. In the underground laboratory of Gear, a video conference was held. Aside from Bamboo Pole and Yin Lu, who had been discussing matters in the morning, there was also Zhang Yingying, Octopus, Papercut, Xie Junping, and others. They were all friends who were relatively familiar with Rue Wen. They had come specifically to act as advisors. Luo Nan originally wanted to pull Cat Eyes, who had the best relationship with Rue Wen, but she was currently employed by the military. Communication was inconvenient, so Luo Nan could only drop the idea. Luo Nan originally wanted to have Ru Wen attend the conference and explain his thoughts, but he couldn't bear to let the little girl do a self-dissection in front of others. He simply sent her into the misty maze. He wanted to use the conference to organize his thoughts and then discuss them in private. Though this was the plan, Luo Nan's thoughts still lingered on Ru Wen's peculiar thoughts after the video conference began. He was more or less distracted by her internal and external clairvoyance. As for the others, they found it hard to continue after a round of heated discussion. Bamboo Pole's conclusion was very representative. It's not easy to guess anyone's thoughts, let alone Ru Wen. She's not an ordinary person. Let's talk about something practical first. Let's turn this illusory psychological problem into a real problem that can be touched and solved. Bamboo Pole gave a demonstration as he spoke. Little Xia, how are you doing with the source of the online public opinion? This was the first time Xia Junping was in charge of the inner world's affairs. At the very least he could handle it. So he pushed away his afternoon work and specifically dealt with this matter. He was a bit excited. I've already made contact with that Master Chow. Brother Bamboo Pole. Your information is correct. It's old 5 of the Chow family. Though his father is only a colonel, he comes from a long line of military officers. Since the founding of Xia City, there have been 3 generations of over a dozen people serving in the Close Defense Army. They can be considered to have deep roots and flourishing leaves. Truth be told, we're not in the same circle, but our relationship with Toto can still speak. We did our job well, and they gave us quite a bit of face. They removed us just like that. Nominally, we have to edit it, but whether or not we post it is up to us to decide. Bamboo Pole smiled. That should be enough. Yeah, it seems like he's really a fan of Ru Wen. He even asked for an autograph. This shouldn't be a problem, right? Everyone looked at Luo Nan. Luo Nan nodded. It shouldn't be a big problem. Xia Junping shook his head. Actually, there's still a problem. Chow Wu said that he obtained his resources through the dark web forum. It was said that in the early years, this forum was used to advertise and attract members for Blackjack's underground fighting arena. A considerable part of the live audience was attracted from here. They also had a tradition of disseminating related resources. It's not just Xia City. All over the world, similar bloody fighting videos are recorded and disseminated. The forum's name is Bloodbath. Of course, it's the same as the majority of the dark web. There's an entire industry chain here. Whether it's a pure competition, an organized sparring, or gambling, they form their own system. It's not just limited to Xia City. In other words, it's basically impossible to completely control the dissemination of related resources. Luo Nan nodded. This was in line with his previous estimations. Xia Junping didn't just state the problem. He also did some work. Right now we can control as much as we can. I'm thinking that Chow Wu and a group of people from the Bloodbath Forum in Xia City will form their own faction. Tonight, Husseiner and I will invite them to sit down. Consider it our thanks for the face he gave us this morning. We'll also let these people tie up their pockets in Xia City. Chow Wu has a close relationship with the military. That's why I asked He Donglu to keep up appearances. However, this He kid is too jumpy. I really can't keep him in check when his hedonistic nature sets in. That's why I want you, Nanster, to give him a heads up and pressure him. Before Luo Nan could speak, Papercut, who had been playing close to He Donglu recently, laughed. It's fine. He Donglu, that kid, is much smarter than he looks on the surface. He knows what's going on. If you invite him, he'll certainly be happy to cooperate. Of course, if Nanster gives him a heads up, he'll certainly have more face. He'll be even more happy. Luo Nan grunted and snapped back to reality from his deep thoughts. He didn't delay and simply gave He Donglu a call. The other side quickly connected. He rushed to greet Luo Nan. Luo Nan, Nanster. Is there something you need from me? It's about the place tonight. Luo Nan's mind spun slightly when he saw He Donglu's deliberately cheerful and familiar tone. He Donglu's words were a bit messy, but he didn't deliberately do it. The sensor network that covered Xia City slightly vibrated, and relevant scenes flowed before his eyes. And after these real-time scenes, there was a layer of even more fuzzy information flow. It was an indirect effect. For the time being, it was impossible to form something concrete, but it made Luo Nan's mind stir. On the plane of reality, Luo Nan didn't stumble at all. He smoothly continued. Yes. I'll have to trouble you. Also, you're close to my house. If you have time, can you come pick me up? He Donglu was a bit stupefied for a moment. You're also. That's fine. It's on the way. I'll be there before 6. He Donglu's words were quite excited. Thanks. Let's talk later. Luo Nan hung up the phone, and he received astonished gazes from all sides. You're going to this place? You need to pay more attention to Rue Wen's matter. Xie Junping scratched his head. If you go, He Donglu will certainly put in more effort. However, this sort of situation isn't something that can be reaped just by putting in a bit more effort. Each and every one of those fellows are thorns. If you put in too much effort, you might even have a rebellious mentality. Luo Nan laughed. In the end, you just don't have confidence in my social skills. Xie Junping spoke with his conscience. That's because you really don't have confidence. Also, you gave He Donglu such treatment. Don't let him get overly excited. He needs it. Luo Nan didn't say much. He changed the topic back. It's fine to have a rebellious mentality. Let's put on the right attitude and speak the right words. Those who are willing to help are friends. Those who are deliberately causing trouble are enemies. In the end, public opinion on the internet is still fake. But these people are real before our eyes. Xie Junping was stupefied for a moment before replying. That's true. Zhang Yingying furrowed her brows. But this way, the matter with Rue will have a reversal. Isn't relapsing normal? Luo Nan didn't look worried at all. Instead, he had ample reasons. According to Rue Wen's opinion, she doesn't want things to stop. We should respect her choice. Everyone raised their eyebrows at his words. Chapter 1137. 5 minutes before 6 in the afternoon, Luo Nan didn't even change his clothes when he got home. He went back downstairs and greeted Mrs. Luo Shuqing, who was sitting on the sofa and observing public opinion online with a frown. I have a party tonight, so I'll be home late. If it's too late, I might sleep outside. Going out so soon after coming back? All right, be careful. You hear, what people say is not true. Hey, I'm not talking about you. Mo Peng, who had just returned home from school, had a problem with the timing of his response. He incurred the cold gaze of his own mother on the spot. Then he thought about how his old man and sister weren't home tonight. Rue Wen wouldn't show herself either. He actually had to face Mrs. Luo Shuqing's monstrous pressure by himself. He lost the courage he had at home for a time. He hurried over with 2 steps and revealed a smile to Luo Nan. I might as well go with you. Sure. Ha. If you want to go, it's not a problem. This party is full of young people. There should be some fun. Mo Peng swore that he was just speaking thoughtlessly. He never thought that Luo Nan would actually take it seriously. Mo Peng wasn't an idiot. He didn't know what Luo Nan was busy with right now, but he was very certain that it was absolutely a major matter. The Xia city government's high privileges group definitely wasn't obtained by selling miserably. The reason why Luo Nan's mother didn't care about Luo Nan going out or even staying overnight outside was because she knew that Luo Nan was going to do proper business. Why had he followed her? Be in charge of acting cute? Mo Peng shrunk back, but Luo Nan grabbed him. Don't run if you've already picked it up. Change your clothes and let's go out. There's no need, right? I haven't finished my homework yet. The more Luo Nan spoke, the more guilty Mo Peng felt. Mo Peng was born with a fear of a strange environment. It even suppressed the accumulated power of his mother for a time. He simply raised his voice and used the method of self-detonation to ask for help. As expected, it attracted Luo Shuqing's attention. But Luo Nan was a step ahead. Sometimes social homework is more important than homework after school. Auntie, I'll go with Brother Peng. It's a gathering of people of the same age. There's no problem. The most important thing is for him to expand his social circle. There are some people and some things that are better known early on. Madame Luo Shuqing pondered for a moment. Luo Nan turned his head and spoke to Mo Peng in a low voice. This is related to Rue Wen's matter. You have to help out and take a look. Are you even more lacking in confidence than I am in this sort of social occasion? Luo Nan raised his voice in the second half of his sentence. Mo Peng was stupefied, forgetting to struggle. On the other side, Ms. Luo Shuqing made the decision. We can go, but you have to come back early. Sure. Luo Nan didn't have any interest in playing all night with this bunch of second-generation kids. He readily agreed and pushed Mo Peng. What are you scared for? It's not like this is a Hongmen banquet. Don't be a coward. Mo Peng had a legitimate reason, so he couldn't take it anymore. He pulled open his collar and said, What do you want to change into? Formal wear? No need. Just think of it as going to night, Frost River reality. Before Mrs. Luo Shuqing could react, Luo Nan quickly changed his words. Tonight, Aunt, you can eat with Rue 1. Chat with her. Don't worry, she's quite calm. By the time Mo Peng finished packing and left, it was already past 6 o'clock. The two walked out of the community. The side door of a high-end business car opened in a parking space on the side of the road. He Donglu waved at them under the soft illumination of the interior. He had a radiant smile on his face. He didn't show any dissatisfaction from waiting for a long time. Luo Nan also laughed. Young He, sorry to keep you waiting. This is my older brother, Mo Peng. He's the same age as me. He Dongluo's gaze shifted to Mo Peng. He laughed intimately. That's because he's younger than me. I'll just call him Pengzi. Come. Luckily I switched cars today. Just as He Donglu said, He Donglu didn't bring his daily ride when he came to pick up Luo Nan. Instead, he chose a relatively bulky business car. Aside from wanting Luo Nan to have a more comfortable ride, He Donglu also wanted to bring a few more people. Mo Peng greeted He Donglu with a bit of caution. He was just about to board the car when he suddenly froze in place. Luo Nan was in the back. He saw that aside from an unfamiliar young man, there was also a beautiful woman in the rear compartment. He recognized her. It was none other than the female celebrity Shi Wei, who was at Mingtang Culture with Mo Ya. He didn't expect that He Donglu would bring Shi Wei over. He could only push Mo Peng into the car at this time. At the same time he laughed. Miss Shi is here too. What a coincidence. Brother Peng is your loyal fan. He even asked me to get your autograph in the past. Luo Nan was hoping that Mo Peng wouldn't have a mental breakdown after he clearly saw the relationship between Shi Wei and He Donglu. Shi Wei was the type of person who had perfect communication skills. She waited for Mo Peng to sit down before she took the initiative to extend her hand. Her smile was like a flower. Mo Peng, right? Mo Ya's little brother. I remember that I did give you an autograph. We weren't familiar back then. Mr. Luo even asked my assistant for help. We're not strangers now. Just keep in touch in the future. Ah, thank you, Sister Wei Wei. Fortunately, Mo Peng wasn't one of those fanatical fans of Shi Wei. His reaction was much more mature than what Luo Nan imagined. He extended his hand very carefully, using the tip of his finger to touch Shi Wei's finger to avoid his moist palm, revealing the fact that he was overly nervous. Then he revealed a large smile. It really is Sister Wei Wei. I was just thinking about not going. In the end, the bus hasn't even left, and it's worth the price. Regardless of the quality of the joke, everyone in the car laughed. Both the host and the guest were happy for a time. The car started, and it went to the location of the gathering. Luo Nan's gaze fell upon the young and unfamiliar face in the car at this time. The latter's gaze also stared at him. It was quite fervent. He Donglu timely introduced, This is my younger cousin, He Dongliang. The reason I called him over is because he usually likes actual combat, so he has crossed paths with Chao Wu. Yeah, he seems to be more familiar with little 8 of the Chao family. Right. I'm very familiar with Chao Fong. We usually train together. Brother Chao Shu often sees us too. Brother-in-law. Don't worry. Tonight Ouch. He Dongliang was overly excited, incurring He Dongluo's attack on the spot. He Dongliang didn't finish his words, but he still drew Mo Peng's horrified gaze. Just kidding. He Donglu addressed Luo Nan as brother-in-law in front of his own family. There was no taboo in whether it was real or fake. In the end, he still needed a bit of face in front of Luo Nan. He Dongliang, this bastard, was even more worrisome than He Donglu. He Dongliang was truly a muddle-headed person. He managed to change the way he addressed Luo Nan with great difficulty under He Donglo's watchful gaze. He called Luo Nan senior apprentice brother, without any head or tail. In the end, he changed to the more normal brother Luo Nan. Actually, He Dongliang was a bit older than Luo Nan and Mo Peng. He couldn't be bothered with it right now. Chao Shu, Xiaofan. Luo Nan checked the information in his mind before he understood what He Dongliang meant by Xiaofan. Xiaofan corresponded to little 8 of the Chao family's younger generation. And Chao Shu was Chao Wu, who had triggered today's gathering. Xie Junping called He Donglu over. Sure enough, it was useful. Similar friendships were connected in circles. He Donglu casually chatted about a few things. Compared to Dongliang, this muddle-headed kid, and Chao Wu, little 8 of the Chao family is the real deal. He enlisted in the military last year and has been training in the military. Moreover, he's not in the Xia City Closed Defense Army, but the Aerial Army. He's even more amazing than the one from the Chao family. Rumor has it that he'll be moving to Europa FOB soon. It's not moving. It's selecting. He Dongliang boasted for his friend. This batch of people is special. They're selecting the cream of the crop because Lieutenant General Joseph is about to return to Earth to debrief. Rumor has it that this batch of people will be personally selected by him. Some will even be directly added to his personal guard. It's a one-for-one operation. The number of people that go in will be the number of people that come out of the guard. Luo Nan raised an eyebrow. Lieutenant General Joseph. Of course Luo Nan knew of him. He was an extraordinary with an awe-inspiring reputation in the inner world. He was a powerful person like a stabilizing force in the military. He didn't participate in the Summit Round Table Conference last time, but he still retained his seat. Luo Nan casually asked, "Why?" "You should know, Nanster." In this environment, He Donglo's way of addressing Luo Nan became all the more intimate. This time, the members of the guard that Lieutenant General Joseph brought back are all going to undergo a major update of the Deep Blue platform. Whether it's the Dynamo Core or something else, they are limited by their aptitude and hardware. Some people are bound to be eliminated. That's right. One wave was eliminated, and another wave was promoted. In the end, it was still the Deep Blue platform system. This was an even deeper binding. Luo Nan went silent. Beside him, Mo Peng had absorbed too much information all at once. He was still in a daze. He wanted to open his mouth a few times to ask questions, but he forcefully held himself back. He just lowered his head and searched for keywords on the internet through his wristband. Whether it was useful or not, his mental fortitude was commendable. As for how his heart was in turmoil, that was another matter altogether. Luo Nan's gaze circled around Mo Peng's body. Pulling Mo Peng over to participate in tonight's gathering was indeed a spur-of-the-moment idea. But the thoughts that pushed him to make this decision had been brewing in his heart for some time. The participants of tonight's gathering were all young people. Mo Peng's fitting in was just the most superficial reason. The most fundamental reason was this. Mo Peng should be allowed to join this circle. From Luo Nan's perspective, this group of second and third generation students was just that. But it was still much more expansive than the pure student circle. Of course, it was also much more chaotic. It was a springboard that led to an even vaster world. It was the shallow waters on the way to the deep sea. Mo Peng might not be happy right now, but Luo Nan had kicked him in the back. This was because that vast world, that deep sea, wasn't something that could be isolated forever just because you didn't touch it. They were here. It was just that there was a fuzzy barrier of information sandwiched in the middle. It gave people the misconception that they were far away or that they weren't related. So much so that Luo Nan didn't even need to use any additional power. Just Luo Nan's position, the environment he faced, and the waves stirred up by his every move were enough to erase this barrier of nothingness. The future incidents, at the very least, would be a storm of information brought about by a series of incidents. It was destined to involve his family members. It was just a matter of how much, and it wouldn't change according to Luo Nan's will. Since this was the case, why not do it a bit earlier? Chapter 1138. Luo Nan was certain that his way of thinking had changed. In the past he would have probably. In fact, he would have adopted a more conservative strategy, isolating his aunt's family from the flow of information related to the inner world. He only wanted to distance his family from those messy matters so that they wouldn't have to worry about them. As it turned out, this kind of conservative strategy was useless. As Luo Nan's status in the inner world rose with the tide, his influence over the various powers grew greater and greater. Under the influence of the various powers, the man-made dam of information became extremely weak. The flood overflowed the dike, and Luo Nan's aunt's family would still know what they needed to know. Not to mention the fact that the global census, Rui Wen's matter, 10 days in the wilderness, and other matters, both overt and covert, were piled up together. A considerable portion of them had already seeped into his family's lives, and he couldn't stop them even if he wanted to. Of course, Luo Nan's way of thinking had changed, so he wasn't that passive. He speculated that the key factor that led to his transformation seemed to be the perception system of the magneto-optical mica that was completely different from that of humans. After observing and thinking about it for a long time, he became increasingly certain. Perception, experience, breadth and depth of experience, as well as the corresponding thinking ability, were crucial to the growth and evolution of life. In the era of rapid change in the future, the information masking caused by excessive protection, as well as the corresponding problems such as underdevelopment and inability to evolve, might cause even greater damage than facing difficulties and disasters. There were a few people in the family. After all, uncle and aunt were adults. They had gone through the storm with grandpa in their early years, so they were mentally prepared and had experience. Moya had been in an underground band for the past few years and was still in the entertainment industry. She had seen a lot of things and knew a little about the situation, so there was no need to worry. The remaining one was Mo Peng. His age was about the same as Luo Nan's, and he was in the circle of ordinary students. He was probably the one with the worst endurance when faced with a sudden storm of information and sudden changes in the environment. Of course, he was also the one who needed to be reformed the most. As for not being used to it, he would eventually get used to it. No matter how uncomfortable it was better than being muddle-headed when the time came. Mo Peng was like this, and so were his relatives. By extension, it was the same for all living beings on Earth. An even more complicated problem was waiting for him ahead. Luo Nan habitually entered a long examination mode. The MPV carrying them was also moving forward steadily. The normal magnetic rail load was limited. Medium to large vehicles like this would automatically adjust to the bus lane, which was relatively smoother. Moreover, the interior design of this high-class business car was excellent. The aircraft-grade business seats were very comfortable. The starry sky roof, which had been worn out on luxury cars, felt pretty good if one didn't look closely. Everything was quite appropriate, but Luo Nan did not speak. The atmosphere here was a bit strange. In such a situation, Shi Wei's value was highlighted. Using her advantage as a woman, she took the initiative to break the silence. Mr. Luo, before I came, I heard from young Master Lu that tonight's gathering is because of Rui Wen. Luo Nan came back to his senses and nodded. Yes. Is he trying to build up his current popularity? It's such a pity. As a member of the entertainment industry, Shi Wei instinctively pursued popularity and traffic. No. It's the exact opposite. Rui Wen and I both need popularity. Luo Nan gave a clear answer. He didn't mind having an exchange with this female celebrity. Shi Wei subconsciously glanced at He Donglu beside her. This was different from the information she had received earlier. He Donglu was also very surprised. Didn't we let Chao Wu and the others manage those resources? There's a follow-up? I'm considering. Luo Nan was just about to say something when a call came in. He looked at the caller ID, raised his hand slightly, and immediately connected the call. Leicester? Xue Lei's sigh came from the other side, along with a large amount of noise. You guys haven't arrived yet? Aside from Brother Ping, I don't recognize a single person here. Xue Lei was in a rather crucial stage of his cultivation during this period of time. He usually lived in seclusion, cultivating his energy with concentration. Luo Nan had called him over tonight in consideration of Chao Wu's circle. Everyone was a fan of actual combat. Having a professional would make things easier. It seemed that this sort of scene was still. It doesn't matter. Everyone will know each other after a round of flashing fists. Xie Juanping's voice suddenly rushed in. It was raised quite high, followed by roaring laughter. It looked like the atmosphere was quite good. There was even someone shouting, I don't accept this. Why are we playing in virtual reality? Has the iron cage been set up yet? It's starting this early? He Donglu heard these sounds from the car and felt a bit baffled. Gatherings of young people like them usually only officially started after 9 or 10 o'clock. Sometimes, they didn't even enter the main topic until after midnight. The grand banquet at the end of last year was like this. Before this, everyone just met, got to know each other, chatted, and at most played a few warm-up games. Now it looked like the atmosphere had exploded ahead of time. Old C, go a bit faster. The bodyguard Old C, who was temporarily acting as the driver, responded and increased the speed of the car. Shui Lei wasn't quite used to the atmosphere over there. He gave a couple of laughs and hid in a secluded place to continue his conversation with Luo Nan. It's been a long time since I've participated in this sort of event. I'm inexplicably scared and jumpy when I go in. I heard that you're really going to let Rui Wen debut? What do you mean? Then what does it mean that she wants to become a public figure? When did she clearly say that she wants to become a public figure? It's just that I think it's like this. Then why don't you just let her debut? I'm not saying this, but this is adding fuel to the fire. The current situation is delicate. If we put on the posture of a victim and act low-key, we can accumulate a bit of sympathy on the internet. But if we take advantage of the situation to debut, many people will really hype this matter. Our reputation won't be good. Besides, the public has a different set of standards for people in the entertainment circle. Luo Nan swept a glance at Shi Wei and responded with a smile, I know this. Fortunately, Shui Lei didn't participate in the video conference in the afternoon. Otherwise, he would have known that Bamboo Pole, Zhang Yingying, and Papercut had already said all of this more than once. Shui Lei even painstakingly analyzed, your family already has Sister Mo Ya mingling in the entertainment circle. There's a bit of mystery in having a band. But with Rui Wen's current situation, she'll be at the top of Xia City for a short period of time as soon as she makes her debut. Will your family be able to endure that kind of harassment? Are you still going to do your great global census plan? Of course I'm going to do it. Of course I'm going to do it. Luo Nan's response grew more and more straightforward. These two matters don't conflict. This is the effect I want. Shui Lei hung up the phone in confusion. Luo Nan's attitude was very clear, but the reason for forming this attitude was hard for his friends to fathom. Luo Nan knew everyone's confusion. His mind was clear, but he was unable to explain it too clearly. Could it be that he wanted to tell everyone? Rui Wen wanted to look in a mirror. However, normal people used polished lenses, while Rui Wen used the multicolored hearts of people. Luo Nan pretty much did the same. The difference was that his Luo Nan ruler was a kind of active projection. It was established upon a relatively clear understanding of himself. It was a crowbar that pierced into the depths of the thoughts of millions and millions of living beings, prying and gathering the chaotic power within the sea of consciousness. As for Rui Wen, she was a child with only 2 or 3 years of memories. Deep within her heart, she didn't have a particularly clear understanding of herself. Instead, she needed to go outside. She needed to go through round after round of projection to piece together a relatively complete version of herself. This was Luo Nan's guess. This was very likely to be a useless effort. This was because Rui Wen's image in the hearts of the masses had long since been grotesque and dazzling. She was greatly distorted. Of course, from Rui Wen's inconceivable talent, this little girl might possess a complete set of identification and integration methods that Luo Nan didn't know of. The target of her clairvoyance might not be as simple as the chaotic hearts of people behind the internet rumors. At the very least, a similar possibility couldn't be eliminated. Luo Nan, who had borrowed the special perceptual mode of the magnetite mica, could understand this point, but he was unable to feel it. And because of this, Luo Nan didn't know where to start persuading Rui Wen. He could only strive to create conditions for her. In addition, Luo Nan had his own considerations, but they were still a bit chaotic and unformed. After hanging up the phone, Luo Nan pondered for a bit too long. In the end, it was Shi Wei who took the initiative to talk to him. Mr. Luo, according to what you're saying, Miss Rui Wen wants to be a public figure, right? Not only are we not suppressing her popularity, but we're also going to form some sort of direction? Luo Nan thought for a bit. To be precise, we're going to do our best to appear in the eyes of the public, but we're going to pull away from commercialization. I haven't thought of the specifics yet. Shi Wei's brows furrowed. A voluntary public figure? And non-commercialization? That's about the plan. Shi Wei hooked the corner of her lips. If we don't walk the commercial path, public opinion and social activism are fine, but Miss Rue Wen's age and identity aren't suitable. It's fine to do a live broadcast, but this kind of model, especially one that eliminates commercialization and adopts the form of personal expression, will find it very hard to win the favor of the public. I'm talking about the positive reaction. He Donglu nudged Shi Wei lightly. He felt that these words were a bit too direct. Luo Nan faintly felt that it was his request to be non-commercialized that gave Shi Wei a bit of stimulation. In fact, due to the existence and effect of Luo Nan Qi, every word and action of his, even the radiation of his emotions, was very likely to amplify the reception and reaction of others. Especially for Shi Wei, who was a social butterfly with a sharp and sensitive mind. Luo Nan obviously didn't mind. And from a rational perspective, there weren't any problems with Shi Wei's expression. He responded with a smile. Sister Wei Wei, you're more professional than us in this field. I was just about to ask for your opinion. A Sister Wei Wei, copied from Mo Peng, made Shi Wei's mind feel at ease. She soon realized that her dissatisfaction from being mocked came without reason. Her smile grew all the more bright and beautiful. Mr. Luo, you praise me too much. I'm muddle-headed in this circle. I can't be considered a professional. I can only say that I'm parroting. I'll give you an idea for your reference. Please speak. Please speak. I'm all ears. Luo Nan's smile was warm, causing the atmosphere in the car to become all the more harmonious and relaxed. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.